first night I hit this club with Mike in New York, and a dude was outside. He's a pretty nice-sized guy. And Mike walks up, and he's like, "Yo, Mike, put me on, man. Let me be some security tonight." He's like, "I got security. You whoop his ass, you can have his job."
Oh, my.
Parallax. You are now tuned into the Parallax Effect. It's not the message, it's the messenger. What up, Ryan? It's time. Parallax. Oatmeal's better than no meal. Guess who's back to make mountains out of molehills? If this don't move you, I bet my folks will. This beat's smooth, but trust me, there ain't no chill. Ask Ryan, if I'm lying, I'm flying. It's the sculpture of all aspects of the culture. Parallax. The People's Podcast is back, laying it down flat for you wherever you at. Your job, or your car, or your jog, or your flight. Loads of archives with no ending in sight. Hitting on any topic, long as it ain't no nonsense. You can see the others for the drama and the gossip. Word to Brett, best there ever was, recognize it. Never secondary, my eyes stay on the pocket. Parallax. And if you feeling the vibes, give us 5 stars. Oh, and follow and subscribe. Parallax. Sit back and recline, relax and enjoy the ride. Cause it's that Parallax. And you just passed the test. This is the Parallax Effect. Come on, Parallax. Sit back and recline, relax and enjoy the ride. Cause it's that Parallax. And you're here, that's mad respect. Welcome to the Parallax Effect. Yeah.
Final boarding call, the Parallax Effect Podcast, where we continue to navigate through the shifting tides of perspectives, is hitting the tarmac with yet another classic episode with a very esteemed guest. Welcome back to each of you. I am your host, Ryan Lavelle, and as always, let me quickly remind you that you can follow us on Instagram at Parallax Effect Media, on Facebook at the Parallax Effect Podcast, on Twitter at Parallax Effects. Once again, that is Parallax Effects with an S. And also on TikTok, search RiloKen27. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. The link is in the show description as well as on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And just to let everybody know, this Saturday coming up, the Parallax Effect Podcast release party will be happening on October 7th at 8 p.m. in downtown LA. You can contact the show for more details. Okay, the wheels are coming up. We are getting ready to take off on this episode as I introduce today's guest, who gracefully donated his man cave, his private dwelling for the taping of today's show. And this gentleman, who I have known for literally decades, he is a Southern California native, born and raised here in SoCal. He is the one constant in an ever-changing world. He believes that if he cannot do it, it cannot be done. And he has served and is actually still currently serving as a personal attaché to some notable figures that you may have seen, that you may not have seen. We'll definitely get into that. But really want to introduce here and thank you for your time, Sir Anthony Pitts. Welcome to the Parallax Effect. How are you?
I am marvelous. As I like to say, I'm a shade above excellent.
A shade above excellent, and many shades above excellent, in my personal opinion. Thank you so much for being on the show today. As you know, or you may not know, your name was dropped on a previous episode on the Prince of Pasadena Parallax Effect Podcast show with one Kylan Gamel. And ever since then, there's been several responses that have really been calling for you to come on the show. So I appreciate you answering that call to duty, my friend.
Yes, well, as you know, this is a rare occasion for me because I don't do interviews, I don't take pictures, and I don't get autographs. That's just something I don't do.
Well, we definitely
made an exception because it's you and Kylan, Eric. We're family. So.
Yes. So shout out to Kylan Gamel. Shout out to Eric Antoine. Shout out to all the fellas that, you know, like you said, we've been family for decades. Great people. Phenomenal individuals that are doing phenomenal things in this walk of life as well, too. We're going to start here today actually just getting more of your backstory, Anthony. So tell me a little bit about, obviously, Southern California native, like we said. You grew up here. What was that environment like? Were there any moments that you remember that morphed you or that made you the person that you are today?
What's really funny is I grew up in an era where there was nothing going on like it's going on today. We didn't have gangbanging. We didn't have TikTok, Instagram. We had communication by way of face-to-face, meeting up. And there was never really any real danger, with the exception of one time when I was around 14 years old, and I got chased by an older guy with a gun. Ran past my house, into my neighbor's house, locked him out of his house, and went in the bathroom and jumped in a clothes hamper and hid.
Oh my gosh.
I've never been scared like that in my life, not even since. And I faced a lot of things. So that was a life-changing character building moment for me. I was like, okay, I'm cool. I know what I need to do as a kid.
So how did that situation start, and what did your, a lot of questions I actually have because I wasn't aware of that story. How did that situation start, and what was your neighbor thinking as you ran by him?
What's funny is, let's talk about my neighbor first.
Okay.
We've lived next door to each other for quite a few years, and he was the gym administrator at the high school. So he ran the pool, he ran the locker room, he knew us from young kids to there. And there's a hamburger stand that used to be right across the alley from where I was growing up. And I was going over there to get actually a pastrami, as he had the best pastrami ever when I ate meat. And I was just standing there waiting, and somebody had gotten into a fight like maybe a half a block up the street by the barbershop. All of a sudden, this guy came running down to Mr. Pups, and he had his brother with him. And he's like, there he is right there. And he pointed me out. And I didn't know what was going on. All I saw was his brother about to aim a gun at me. I took off running. He took off running behind me. Man, I've never ran so fast in my entire life. Ran past my neighbor, locked him out, like I said. After it was all over, I don't even know what transpired outside, but he told my mother that the guy was like, let me in. He's like, I don't have the key. He locked me out. I was sitting on my porch. He ran in and locked me out. I have to wait for my wife to come home.
Just to get in.
Yeah, but my sister, as a matter of fact, called the police because she saw the commotion. I mean, the house was like, this is my house, and right outside was the next door. It wasn't like a big space, so yeah. But I don't know what transpired outside of that.
Did you ever see the individual again who was chasing you, or that was the last time?
Ever.
Man.
And found out, actually, he had mistaken me for a friend of mine's brother, big brother, who lived right down the street from me.
Wow. So you weren't even the right person.
No.
So 14 years old, and we always hear those stories of wrong place, wrong time, or innocent bystander, or whatever the case may be. Very glad that situation was averted by you and your quick feet. I imagine around that time, I don't know who the world record holder was for the 100 meters, but maybe I can look it up later. But you probably would have broken it if they would have clocked you that day.
I don't think there's anything like fear to motivate you.
And is there any, obviously, that instance sticks out in your mind as far as a pivotal moment, but were there any other moments growing up where fear really kind of pointed you towards the right way, or fear made you do more than you thought you could do?
No, that moment of fear clarified everything I needed to know about being afraid. And from that point on, I decided I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to be afraid of being afraid.
Right.
Because at 14, you don't have the complete wherewithal to navigate or to disarm a situation. I couldn't stand there and talk to this guy because I didn't see him listening to me. All I saw was the gun and run. That was the first thing that clicked in my head. Now, it just shaped me to be a little more discerning about where I go, how I move, and how to talk to people.
So that's something that stuck with you ever since then. And does that something that serves you, and we're going to get into it in just a little bit, but does that something that continues to serve you today?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, because you are one of the individuals that I see throughout, and I've known you for a long time, that is really able to just kind of like be in different settings, different situations with different people, and be comfortable. Does any situation make you uncomfortable?
What makes me uncomfortable? Probably not really uncomfortable, but just kind of a little offsetting is actually interviews and public speaking.
Oh, really?
Yes, I'm a background guy. I like to sit back and observe and listen.
Right. Well, I wouldn't have guessed, knowing you for as long as I've known you.
Yeah, you know me in a personal setting.
Right. Right.
So yeah, we hang out, we talk, we laugh, all of us. But when I'm working or in a whole different setting, I don't even have to be working. I could be in a social setting with some people I don't know. Mm-hmm. You're not gonna see me trying to be the center of attention or putting myself out there. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna just lay back and observe.
Right. Right. And is that has that how you always been, even going through like grade school, high school? Were you always the one that was kind of back in the background a little bit, or?
I would say yeah, because I've never joined clubs, and I was always kind of a make my own way kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I had friends, but I didn't follow them like that. We played football. I went and did my thing. I wasn't me. I would leave my house and go fishing by myself. Mm-hmm. When everybody else is going to the park or going to do this, that wasn't me.
That wasn't you.
No.
Kick back, have a good time, enjoy nature. Definitely an admirable trait, that's for sure, for sure. So coming up, through, like we said, through your adolescence, I understand that you joined the Black Panther Party. Is that correct?
That was when I was in high school, right? School? Like I was a senior in high school, yeah.
And what compelled you to do that? What was obviously, we know a lot of our history, but a lot of us weren't either around or didn't really know what was going on back then from a firsthand sense. What was happening back then?
Wow, it was through exposure. I was always, from high school, I had a Black history teacher, mm-hmm. Mr. Mendez, mm-hmm. and he had me reading all these books, like Rivers of Blood, Years of Darkness, about the Watts Riot. And then he had me reading some material by Huey Newton, Bobby Seale, Eldridge Cleaver, Mao Zedong. And I just gravitated to that doctrine. And so then I had some friends that were a little older than me that were actually Panther members in the Long Beach chapter. So I just kind of joined with them, and a couple of them got killed. Mm. And my mom was like, you are going to be killed before you're 25 if you keep this up. But I was a militant. Mm-hmm. I grew up from 11th grade on, probably up until, I would say, 1990? No, I take that back. 1985. I was very active. And I slowed down.
And a two-part question on this next one. How did you react? We obviously understand the concern from your mother when she heard that some members of the party who you knew were killed. How did you react to that, knowing that people you just interacted with? And the second part to that question is, like, where did your travels kind of take you within the Black Panther Party? Like, what kind of events did you attend, and where did you go?
Well, I felt angered and revengeful, even though I didn't go out and get revenge. I really wanted to, But like I said, I was younger, so I didn't really have the means to hunt these people down because they were up in Northern California. My travels took me to free lunch programs, free breakfast, handing out materials, rallies. I went to Chicago for a rally. I went up north for a couple of rallies. I even, and this may sound funny, but there was some gentlemen that actually worked in the city of Long Beach who were pro-black and about affirmative action and change, and they had this union they were starting to start. It was called, back then it was called International Black Employees Union. And I used to go around and speak at colleges for them to try to sign up members. So
you did have your share of public speaking out there in the limelight.
And it wasn't that I couldn't do it. It just wasn't my thing.
You didn't prefer to do it.
Yeah, but I did it about 3, 4, 5 times. I went to Cal State Long Beach. I went to City College, Cal State LA. Yeah. But like I said, this was in the 70s. So.
Yeah, definitely. Times were obviously different back then. Well, I mean, times are changing now. I mean, we don't really know what to make of society nowadays. But throughout, like you said, you were very active in that community. Did that lead you to make any connections? Did that kind of lead to your next life, or was that something that just kind of stayed in the moment?
No, it didn't give me connections that I didn't already have, or no other than meeting more people like me, but not that led me to my next steps in life. I just kind of, when they kind of died down, I just kind of changed my course. So it was a simple transition, even though it still lingers. That's like memory. You have stuff compiled in the catacombs of your memory that it's there, and you may need it and never need it.
Right.
But it's there.
Right. We are here with Anthony Pitts here on the Parallax Effect Podcast, just catching up, getting a lot of your backstory, like we said. Member of the Black Panther Party. Are you still a member to this day?
I'm not a card-carrying member. I'm a mentally active in my mind member. I'll always be a Black Panther. That's just me.
That's just the way. That's the way it should be, man. That's the way it should be. And so we move forward. We're taking ourselves into the mid 80s, right? That's around the time starting to transition out, do some different things. Where does life lead you at that point?
It leads me to becoming a hairdresser, believe it or not. And it's funny because people who don't know me, who would see me now and be like, I never knew he was a hairdresser. And I would bet people, I give you 10 guesses, and if you can guess what my first profession was, I will give you $100. And I put it out there.
And you still have that $100.
Yep.
And so how did you find that profession, or how did that profession find you?
It's funny because even in junior high and high school, I used to cut the fella's hair. But my mom was a hairdresser and my grandmother was a hairdresser. So my mother used to say, you should become a hairdresser. You're good at this. And I'm like, hairdressers is for
sissies.
Exactly. And I didn't want to say that, but and she said no. So then I had a girlfriend, and she used to go to this very prominent hairdresser. His name was Clifford Peterson, God rest his soul. But he was like, he did everybody. And so I used to take her up there, and we were talking. I'd be like, man, my mom keeps trying. He said, Anthony, listen. He said, if you became a hairdresser, you would be 1 in a million because you're straight and you have all the women. But that's not what I did. Why I did it. So my brother, God rest his soul, who's passed, and my cousin Dion, we decided we were going to go to cosmetology school together. We enrolled. I went. They didn't.
Oh, they stood you up.
But I went on because I wanted to find out, and I actually enjoyed it, became pretty good at it, and did a number of things in the field of cosmetology, from platform to trade shows to research and development. So, yeah. But all the while I was doing that, I was working security as well.
Oh, okay. So you kind of had two professions, kind of side to side, and that was going to be where I went to eventually. But I learned how to say the word right before the show, and I might have forgot already. But an attaché. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Can you describe what that is for people like me who've never heard that word before?
Really, an attaché in the definitive sense works with the diplomat. He's everything to a diplomat. And it's funny because when my son was like 12 maybe, I told him I was a personal attaché, and he said, "You're a briefcase?" And I said, "No. An attaché carries a case, and they call it an attaché case because he has all his diplomatic papers and stuff like that. I don't carry a case. I carry something else."
Right.
And so actually it's just being everything. Nothing too big, nothing too small. All encompassing. Mm-hmm. You need it. It's about making sure you have a certain level of comfort and security.
Right.
That's it.
And so started doing that. How did you arrive, or what was one of your first jobs, or who got you in to that field?
What's funny is I just kind of gravitated to it. I was working event security. Then I worked security at the clubs. I used to run all the little hot VIP sections and stuff like that, or ran the door or the line to make sure all the good-looking people got in first, or whatever. I did that. And I would meet different people, and I would take care of them so they got comfortable with me. So then, eventually, me and my partner had a place up in L.A., and people would come through to pick up, buy stuff. He ran, from cellular phones to big old satellite dishes to briefcase phone, whatever. Mm-hmm. He was an entrepreneur, mm-hmm. and interesting people used to run through there. And then we would hire people that were up and coming to work at the office when they wasn't. And I don't want to call nobody's names, and I'll tell you off camera because I don't want to put nobody out there. But you'd be surprised who came through that office. But so then I decided I would try to make a go at that.
Okay.
So I took training and learned how to do it the correct way.
And what goes into that kind of training to become an attaché, or to become a private a security kind of?
Let's just call it personal protection.
Personal protection. There we go.
Because the course is a course in personal protection, and you just learn certain things to look out for, certain ways to move, target training, assembling, disassembling a gun, knowing your weapon. But most of the time, I didn't even carry a weapon. I don't carry a weapon now. Not that I'm putting it out there, because I can. So y'all be careful.
Yeah,
don't mistake, and let me have to show you why I really get paid.
Right.
I'm just letting you know. It's just easy. What I do now is all about comfort. It's all about making sure you straight. That's it. There's no real threat. And if it becomes a part where it is a real threat, I will do what's necessary to make sure it's not a threat.
Have any of those situations ever occurred? I'm imagining that somebody has had to be brave. And how did you either de-escalate or make sure that person knew that? You
know what? It's really about tact and diplomacy. It's not about the physical aspect of it. I'd rather talk to you. When I approach someone, it's very non-menacing. I don't raise my voice. I don't get big. I just ask, and it helps, because if you're raising your voice, he's raised, or something's going on, it's going to be complete two negatives, and that's not a good thing.
Right.
So I just try to de-escalate anything. Be like, excuse me, please, do me a favor, man. We don't want no problems. I will try to help you out. Just, whatever it takes.
Right.
So
we could definitely use someone like you on some of these political diplomatic matters that we happen to find ourselves in from time to time, man. That's what I will say. Anthony Pitts here on the Parallax Effect Podcast, just getting into his main profession as an attaché. I think I said it right. Personal protection as well. And so, we did have Kylan on the show, obviously, like we mentioned. And, the cat's out of the bag for some of your clients.
He put some of my clients out there.
We know about, the Mike Tysons. We know about the Earvin Magic Johnsons, and just kind of he was giving his perspective on how he became involved with those individuals, and the conduit was through you.
Right.
And he actually told one of those diplomatic stories of when, the transition from working with Earvin or Magic Johnson to Mike, and how Kylan was trying to navigate that transition, and you diplomatically pulled him back over to Mike's camp.
Right.
So he gave an exact example of what you just said, as far as like being a diplomat even within your employers or you have
to make everything a smooth transition, because you don't want any animosity. You don't want anybody being slighted. So we interchanged with people who were already working with each other. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he went from driving Earvin and Donald driving for me, and then Earvin getting Donald back, who was with Earvin forever, who retired but a few years ago, and Kylan coming back and working with us. That's it.
Just a smooth transition. Yeah, I hear you. And so how do the Earvin Magic Johnsons, the Mike Tysons, how do they find you?
Yeah, wow. Mike used to come to the office, and he had his guy, John, and John and Kevin were really good friends, and then John and I became friends. And so when Mike would come to town, he'd call up and say, yo, man, Mike's coming to town. Won't you roll with us tonight? And so I would roll with him. But the first time I rolled with Mike, John wasn't with us. So we were at the club, and around 3:30 in the morning, he's like, all right, cool, I got to go. I'm like, okay. He's like, I'll see you. I said, no, cool. You owe me this much money. And he's like, I said, Mike, I don't hang out. That is not what I do. I was here for a purpose. I get paid for what I do. And he's like, okay. So that was our first respect thing. Mm-hmm. And we never had a problem. And he always respected. I mean, he would go and he'd try to do his thing the way he wanted to do it. And I'd be like, yo, man, come on, we can't do that. That ain't happening. So it worked out pretty well.
It worked out. So the circles that you created kind of previously to you entering that field seem to pay off, because you've already made those established connections, right? And as someone who is evidently very, very good at networking, what would be your advice to someone who is trying to start and build their own network?
In my field?
And let's go with your field, but maybe generalize it a little bit more to just kind of life in general.
You have to network. You have to be willing to grow, and you have to be willing to start here to get here. A lot of people want to start here and don't want to take the necessary steps to get there. I was fortunate enough to have things and people in place that just kind of helped escalate mine. Mm-hmm. But even if I didn't, I was fine where I was. I wasn't, I'm not one who has to be seen. I'm not one who, a lot of people don't even know what I do. I mean, a lot more people know who I am and what I do now because of the exposure. But I've done a lot of people, and you would never even know that I've done or worked with these people because it's not something that I need to talk about to make myself feel good or to try to impress anybody. I'm the kind of guy that believes a raggedy ride beats a dressed up walk any day.
I like that. I'm going to have to borrow that from you for sure. A raggedy ride beats a dressed up walk any day. All right, I'm with that. I'm with that. And so the humility that you have, the ability to kind of, does that also, the ability to kind of, I don't want to say blend in, but not be the focal point, does that help in your profession as well too? Because do you ever have to be in a position where nobody knows you're there?
Yeah.
In case, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And I don't mind standing in that corner right there, just standing in the corner, having a conversation in my mind about myself, by myself about the people that are in here. And
right.
I may stand over here and you think I'm not paying attention, but I'm paying attention. And I'm watching. My eyes just may be moving. I may be able to cover this much. And if I have to move, and you look for certain things. And fortunately for me, there has never been a very volatile or state of emergency situation that I've been in.
Have you prevented something like that happening because of your ability to read the room and encase the environment?
I haven't had to prevent anything, but I've recognized some things and say, it's time to go. This is not going to be a good look.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In any of those instances you can share, or are those still kind of...
No, okay. I can't share them because then it would put people in a
right.
certain light that they don't need to be in.
Right. Understandably so. Definitely respect that. Well, so moving forward, so when I used to first hear your name mentioned, obviously we mentioned, the Kylans and the Erics and the crew. I knew at least some of the folks that you worked for, like a Mike Tyson. I even think I ended up with a Team Tyson polo shirt that came from you. Kylan brought it to me.
Yeah.
So, when I and you were almost like this enigma for a while because I would always hear your name, but I never met you for...
You met me and didn't realize it.
Well, I'll tell you, I remember the first time I did. So I'll tell you, at least in my recent memory, or the memory that I have or whatever. I could have been much, much younger, but we were in, I think it was DL shop one day, and you came in there, and, obviously everybody's chopping it up, and I'm sitting in the chair and I'm looking at you. And now let me back this up a little bit. So when I was in, I think it was like the 7th or 8th grade, we went to, as a school trip, we went to a TV taping of the Jamie Foxx show, right? Mm-hmm. And Tiny Lister was there, Debo, right? Rest in peace to Debo. And, he's just got this look on him, right? And that's part of his thing is that look. And it's a pretty intimidating look. So he, knew we were there on a field trip. So he walked up to each of us and he leaned in with that look. And we all leaned back, just like Smokey and Friday. We leaned back to try to keep our distance. And then he just gave us one of these and dadded each of us up. And we were like, oh, after that. But the look was there, right? So fast forward to when my first memory of you, I knew, okay, he works for Mike Tyson, personal protection. I'm like, usually the person protecting the whoever is usually tougher than the person. So if Mike's the baddest man on the planet, I can't imagine what Anthony is because that's how I defined it at such a young age, right? And it became that same thing like Debo. You had that look and then you leaned in on me and then I leaned back and then you gave me one of these and I was like, oh, all right. And now my friends, because I used to bring my friends to the barbershop, were in the shop with me. So I kind of gave him a look like, me and him are tight. So don't slip, you know how us young stunners do.
That's your memory, your first recollection of me. Yeah. But I had been to your house before that when you were much younger with Spice.
Yeah.
Your brother,
mm-hmm.
yeah, and Akim, your sister.
Yeah.
I'd been there, but you were young.
Yeah.
You were probably 11.
I didn't know what I was doing, man.
You was ripping running. You wasn't even checking for us back then. You was doing your own thing.
Right.
But yeah.
So
and that's funny you should mention Debo because Tiny and I were very good friends. And funny thing is, he used to, when he was first coming up in the industry, he used to work with us.
Really?
As our security at the office.
Wow. See, it comes full circle, man.
And he used to have a security shirt. And he was big, but he was one of the nicest guys.
Yeah.
I mean, so nice. He was such a good
That's
dude.
what everybody said about him as well. And, I grew up a wrestling fan, so he even had his little moment, as,
with
as
the
Zeus
WWF.
with the WWF at the time. And, fast forward a couple years later, you also had your moment with the WWF at the time.
Oh, yeah, Mike.
With Mike.
Yeah.
So Kylan gave us his, perspective, and he told a funny story about how, when the push happened, that Mike always carried cash, and all the cash and that wasn't scripted.
Man, the money flew, and Kylie picked up all the money.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, long before that, when we were in Tokyo, when Mike was fighting Buster Douglas, Vince McMahon actually told John and Rory, we should make Anthony a wrestler. We should get him to be. I'm like, no, you're not. I have no desire to be no WWF whatever wrestler.
Man, you would have been a superstar, Ant.
I'm not a superstar, man.
Oh man, I could have been your manager, man. That would have went by so well.
I tell people all the time, I've never desired to be a superstar, an actor. I have a very dear friend who used to work at BET, and she used to say, you should do voiceovers. You have a great voice. You should go to school and do voiceovers. I'm like, I'm cool on that. That's just, I had no desire to do that. But what I do have a desire to do is be a chef.
There you go.
So, I mean, that's one of my favorite things to do is cook.
So what are some of your specialty dishes?
Wow. Peach cobbler, sweet potato pie,
I've had the
collard
peach
green
cobbler.
stew, gumbo, you name it. From soul food to gourmet, I cook. That's just what I do.
And how did you learn that trade?
I stayed in the kitchen with my mom from a young kid. I started out baking. My very first baking experience was probably like at 7 with oatmeal cookies. And then my sisters and brothers used to always get me to make oatmeal cookies for them. Then I just kind of gravitated. And I always stayed in the kitchen. My mother taught me techniques, things to do.
Right.
Because she used to always say, chicken is just chicken until you flavor it.
And then it becomes that specialty, right?
And so that's what she said. Food is food. Seasonings make food. How you prepare them, that's what makes the food. You get a rump roast, it's just a rump roast. If you just stick it in the oven, it's still going to be a rump roast. But what is it going to taste like? So you got to learn how to, she taught me how to stuff cloves and ham, punch the knife, stick cloves down in there, all of that. So
can we, are we expecting a Chef Anthony farm to table coming to a...
You know what? If God grants me that time, when I leave doing what I'm doing now, I could consider that. I would have to move from here. I have to find somewhere I can just grow, or maybe I'll just tear that house down next door and build a big garden out there and just grow stuff, and then do meals. But a private, I wouldn't have a restaurant. It's just too much work. It's too speculative. You have to depend on the people to support you, and you may start out good. How many restaurants have you seen doing good, and then some Little Red Hen out to dinner? Is it still there?
I think it is still there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the same family.
Yeah.
But look how long they've been doing the same thing.
Right.
And their niche is their niche. Me, if I was going to do that, I would have a private restaurant. It would be small. Maybe a 20-table seating. And what I made for that day, I would give you a choice of a fish, a poultry, and a meat, then vegetables, and a dessert.
Yeah.
That's it. You come in, and when it's gone, it's gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
So we're not doing a Cheesecake Factory.
Oh no, I'm not because when you start trying to cook too many things,
Right.
the quality dies.
Right.
The integrity of the food.
Yeah, it becomes a little too.
Yeah.
Do you watch? I mean, I know you're always on the go, but do you watch a lot of whatever TV shows or anything like that?
I watch on the go. I watch what's on, but when I'm home and I have time to watch TV, this is my lineup:
Yeah.
Law and Order SUV, all the reruns, Chicago PD,
I'm seeing a theme here.
NCIS Los Angeles, and I started watching NCIS Los Angeles because of LL, because I like LL, and I just like him. I like his whole demeanor, how he's defined himself as
Right.
well. So I always watch NCIS Los Angeles.
Do you know LL?
Yeah, I know LL.
Yeah.
I know him. I know his family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. And is he part of the list of personal protectees?
No,
Okay.
no. We just develop a rapport through
Through the connections.
connections. Yeah, he's part of the network, and I mean, from when he was a youngster, and in New York when I was working with Mike. So yeah,
Excellent. Where I was going with that was I have a TV show that I recommend to you about a chef. You may have heard of it, may not have heard of it. It's called The Bear. Have you heard of it?
no,
It's about a Chicago-based chef who I think he goes out to New York, and I'm not going to tell you the whole story because I actually want you to watch it. And he gets a Michelin star rating, and he comes back home and tries to take over the family deli, but he's trying to do a little bit like what you're saying, make it more of a not necessarily private, but more of a specialty place where the dishes are,
Right.
very well thought of, catered to service. It's a very chaotic show as far as dialogue is concerned. Nothing you probably haven't heard before, but I think you might like
check it out.
It's on Hulu. Yeah. So
there was an Italian restaurant in Miami that I used to like to go to. Very small. The whole restaurant was probably as big as this whole space right here, and that being the kitchen over there, and then this part of the dining room, that part of the dining. But it wasn't this big because you couldn't have more than, I'm gonna tell you how many tables in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 tables. 10 tables, and only 2 tables were more than 2 seats. And it was called Macaluso.
is it still up today?
No, they closed because the last time I was in Miami, I tried to go there and it wasn't there. But the chef ran the restaurant, and when you walk in, you look on the board, and it'll say what they're serving, and that's what you had to choose from. And it was always good, always good. And then when someone special came in and they asked for something like meatballs, he'd always make them meatballs.
Right.
But that was the only exception. Excuse me.
No problem. We are here with Anthony Pitts on the Parallax Effect Podcast, possibly soon to be Chef Anthony Pitts. We are putting the energy
That's funny.
out there as well. Definitely. So being a chef is definitely one of your passions. Do you have any other passions?
My Harley, training my dogs, my parrot. I have an African gray.
Have you taught it to say any words?
He talks.
He talks.
He sings. He barks like a dog. He whistles. He'll say, if I turn off the lights, he'll say good night.
Good night. And what's the parrot's name?
Cisco.
Cisco the parrot.
Cisco Kid.
Cisco Kid. We
Was
might have
a
to
friend
have,
of mine.
Was a friend of mine. We might have to have Cisco on the Parallax Effect podcast as well, too, if he's saying that much.
You can walk out the door, he'll say, bye.
See you later.
So, yeah. And then my dog, one of them's right there, and the other one's over at another spot.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So you have your pets, you have your pet projects with the, you know, your motorcycles, your cars,
My kids.
your kids,
my grandkids.
Your life
I got 3 great grandkids. So yeah.
Your life is very, very full, man. That's a beautiful thing, for sure. And that's why we really appreciate the time you set today in between jobs, in between all your responsibilities, just to talk to us.
I should be doing stuff right now to get ready for leaving in the morning at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, well, we won't take too much more of your time. We just got a little bit more to go, as well, just to, you know, knock a couple different questions off the list here. And one of the questions that I have, going back to the attaché responsibilities that you have, is based on what you've seen and some of the people that you've worked with. And I want to ask this question because, again, something that you mentioned about people wanting to start here but not really wanting to start here and climb their way up. What are some of those personal traits that you see some of those folks, maybe like the Earvin Magic Johnsons, who've made a very, very successful transition from athlete to businessman right now, you know, part owner of the Commanders, you know, has done stuff with the Dodgers, obviously what he's done with the Lakers as well. What are some of those personal traits in those individuals that elevate them and make them the people that they are?
Hard work, dedication, and nobody's going to outwork Earvin Johnson Jr. Nobody. And he's not going to cry about it. He's just going to get in there and do what needs to be done. And character, your mantle, what you're made of, has to represent you because, like he said, his brand is him. So when he sets his mind, he just goes and does it. And he works for it, and he works and he works. He doesn't expect anybody to give him anything. He put in the work to get to where he is. Mike was fighting. 90% of the time, he put in the work. When he trains, unbeatable. When he slacks off, we've seen the results. Mm-hmm. But as a person, he's good-hearted, giving, caring, and again, he just does what needs to be done when it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that other 10% of the time, he has folks like you to kind of reel him back in.
I would say reeling him in is a misnomer. I would say he has folks like me who are not afraid, or he had me who to say, I'm not afraid to say what needs to be said or do what needs to be done. Everybody, I can't speak for. I can only speak for me.
Right.
But in that sense, why I've been so successful is because I'm trustworthy. I don't talk. I don't tell. And I'm going to be there. You move, I move. You work, I work. I'm not going to complain. So it takes a lot of patience, understanding, tact, diplomacy to be not just me, but them as well.
Yeah, completely.
So, yeah, it's not an easy road. And if you're not willing to, like I say, start at the bottom, and you might have to just carry bags. I'm not opposed to carrying bags. Yo, carry this bag. Not a problem. But I won't let carrying a bag keep me from doing my job if I have to drop that bag and do what I need to do. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I think all of us, no matter where you get in life, need people around to say or to tell you the truth, or to tell you, when not necessarily maybe you're losing focus, but just when you need to hear what you need to hear to get you back on that, line.
It's really about it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Completely.
That's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
That right there in and of itself is to say, dang, I wish I had him such and such. Where if I'm there, you don't have to worry about that because you had me there. And I'm there for a reason. And listen, if somebody wanted to kill you and they were over at that corner over there with a high scope rifle and you're sitting right here and they shoot you, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't stop the unseen or unforeseen threat. But the immediate threat, I can thwart. I can do something about that. And in that instance, you, as personal protection, have to make a decision in your mind like that to say, I'm going to kill or die for somebody. And you may never have to and pray that you don't. But when you come to that point, push come to shove, you'll find out what you're made of. Believe me, it's not an easy choice all the time. And funny fact, one of the reasons I really started working with Mike full time, there used to be a club we call Wall Street. Mm-hmm. And at one point it was on Wilshire Boulevard at this theater. And Mike came and his limo was parked right outside the doors. And this guy was arguing with his girl. And Mike's driver was in the car. And whoever he had at the time for security, I don't even know who it was standing right outside the car. And Mike was sitting in the car. The guy was arguing with his girl. And Mike got out the car and said, hey, brother, come on, man, don't live like that. And the dude pulled a gun, right? Mm-hmm. And Mike said, oh, man, don't shoot me. His bodyguard, or whoever the guy was, I'm going to tell you how cold this was. He jumped through the window of the front door and through the partition window and was in the backseat of the limousine.
Wow.
And I told Mike, I said, yo, man, you better get you some real people because this is going to get you killed.
He went the other way.
Yeah. And the dude, I'm like, yo, man, come on, man. We ain't trying to start nothing up in here. Come on, man, put that away. You don't want this problem because you know this is, we in Wilshire and between La Brea and Fairfax, somewhere around in there. And it's like probably Beverly Hills police. I said, you don't want that problem, man. He's like, well, I said, yo, man, we don't want no problem, sir. We good. Mm-hmm. Please. And that was the end of the incident. And then Mike went to the club and we went in to party.
Yeah.
But I was actually working that night. I was outside running the door, running the line.
Right.
But yeah.
So you weren't, that was the night that Mike recognized we need to make a change.
And we had worked together a few times, like at Paradise and some of the other clubs when he came. But yeah. I was like, this dude, Mike could tell you about that shit was funny. I'm like, this nigga jumped in the window. He didn't open the door. He jumped in the window and into the partition window. You know that little window that they lit down? Yeah.
So you can communicate with the driver.
Whew.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So, like I said, you'll find out what you made of when you have to.
Right. So. And without kind of giving, obviously, names or even locations, what would you say was the most precarious situation you found yourself in on the job?
Wow. There's been so many years of things. Most precarious. It wasn't even precarious. I was actually working on the MC Hammer tour. Mike was locked up. Earvin was at the Olympics. So I did a thing with Jodeci on the MC Hammer tour. And when we came to L.A., they had called in a threat. And it was the hardest thing for me to convince them that, yo, man, these are just security guys in L.A. trying to get some extra work, man. Ain't nobody after these guys. And we went full on alert. I mean, you could, and I'm like, from the hotel on point 24/7 for 2 days until we got through the show. But there are certain guys in LA who think they should be working whenever somebody comes to town, and when they don't get called, they call in and make threats. So that somebody will bring in security, blah, blah, blah.
So they can work.
Yeah. But that's precarious. Everything else it's just normal business as usual.
Right.
I haven't had to kill anybody. I haven't had to, well, I've dropped a few people. I take that back. But I've never had any real worries.
And when those situations happen, what is the response from the person that you're protecting?
You do what you got to do. They don't really have a response.
They're never like, "Oh man, nice shot, man," or
well, Mike,
or nice hit, or whatever.
I take that back.
Yeah.
Mike used to try to get people in trouble. He would be like, we'd be in a club, especially in New York. I'd be like, I never forget the first night I hit this club with Mike in New York, and a dude was outside. He's a pretty nice sized guy. And Mike walks up and he's like, "Yo, Mike, put me on, man. Let me be some security tonight." He's like, "I got security. You whoop his ass, you can have his job."
Oh my!
Swear on everything. This is the first time on everything I love, because I had a reputation coming in from LA because they know I would drop somebody in a minute back in the day, right? So my man Ross said, "Yo, man, listen. Please, I don't want no problems, man. He just geeking you up. Please don't let me show you why I really get paid." Dude wasn't having no parts. Mike's like, "Oh, that was some fly shit." I'm like, "Mike, you gotta stop this shit, man. We can't come through here having these people looking for me, and I'm supposed to be working, trying to take care of you, and you got me out here like I'm a goddamn ringside circus or something, man. Come on." So, but yeah, he used to do that off and on, kind of regular.
Yeah. Wow.
And I just laugh and be like, I just let it go.
Yeah.
But a couple of times I've had to, yeah.
Well, he didn't put you on like that in front of Stone Cold Steve Austin. So he, I mean, but wow.
All that was scripted.
Yeah.
The push wasn't.
Yeah.
The push was totally unscripted. But the conversation in the middle of the ring.
What was the build up to that? Like them two are discussing the dialogue. Can I say this? Can I not say that? Or how was that? Or Vince was
funny.
directed?
Like we're sitting here. No. What's funny is he'd be like, so they leading up to that match we were up north, Sacramento, I think. Somewhere up north, San Jose, somewhere.
Yeah, I think it was San Jose.
Yeah, somewhere up there. And leading up to that, Stone Cold and Mike were going back and forth. So when they got up there, they were like, "Okay, so when I come in the ring, I'm gonna start, and you just, react to say what you gonna say, blah blah blah, and I'm gonna take a punch at you or something, and then we gonna fight, we gonna wrestle, right? And then that's gonna build up the match." It didn't happen exactly where they scripted, but it worked out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So the push itself was not scripted.
No.
Okay. So Mike got to improvise on that, and that actually was the best part of the whole build-up, was that, and then obviously the announcers took it away, and
right,
Vince did his thing.
Money,
yeah. Did they ask any of the crew to take a bump or take a hit, or?
No, they would be like, "Y'all just play it by ear," because we were all just there like Mike's crew, and so we were just there. We weren't supposed to do anything, but of course, if necessary, we could have filled in.
Yeah,
it would have been. You'd have been able to tell we wasn't really fighting.
Right.
We didn't have those guys, man, they go through it. They really get hurt sometimes.
Yeah, they really do. They work probably just as often as you work. So it's a real, risk getting in there and doing what they do day in and day out. That's for sure. Right. Anthony Pitts here in the Parallax Effect Podcast, just sharing his stories, telling us about his life, getting to know him a little bit better. This is a one-time exclusive. So if you are watching this, you will probably never see anything like this with Anthony again.
I doubt it.
So we appreciate all the time. We're gonna get you out of here in a little bit because we know you got places to be. But we do a little segment called Light Speed, right? And it's just basically like a rapid fire segment. Do you want to participate in this segment?
I'll give it a shot.
We are setting to take off into hyperspace on Light Speed with Anthony Pitts here on the Parallax Effect Podcast. One of the times we hung out, you brought probably the best bottle of champagne I think I've ever had. What is your favorite?
My favorite champagne?
Yeah.
Probably a Krug.
A Krug.
K-R-U-G.
K-R-U-G. Okay. I'm going to have to put that one on my list.
Then we'll go on. I have a bunch. I have a Zareen over there. Mm-hmm. I have some Cristal. I have some Dom Rosé. I'm just a champagne and cognac guy.
Champagne, we call him Don Champagne. We coined it right here. Chef Anthony Don Champagne on the Parallax Effect Podcast. We'll have to divulge when the episode is over as a quick celebration if you have the time. Favorite city you have visited?
My favorite city to visit is probably, wow, I have so many. Stateside or worldwide?
Worldwide.
Oh, my favorite city probably worldwide is Paris.
Paris?
Yeah.
And
I like Paris.
Paris is always, the romantic capital, right?
Yeah, but it's not even so much the romance for me as it is the culture.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And good food too.
Yeah.
French food is one of my top 3 type of delicatessen. You know what I'm saying?
Food.
Yeah, they got some good food. That is for sure. Favorite sports event you've attended live?
Boxing.
Which fight?
All of them.
You got a top? Does anything top? So what's it like?
My top fight is probably Hearns Leonard.
That's a good one to be a top because that was a slugfest.
Probably Hearns Leonard in Vegas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What's it like walking to the ring with Mike?
Energy, a sense of anticipation and nervousness. You never know what's gonna happen. So.
And are you still able to maintain work mode, or do you
always?
You don't take a little glimmer of a moment to take it all in, or you just locked in?
I'm locked in on him and what's going on in the ring. I'm locked in on what's going on immediately around me. The crowd behind me, I don't even worry about.
Right.
I just worry about my whole little area right here and him. So yeah, and walking in. Because even before we walk in, I'm in front of the dressing room door, and there's always a camera right in my face, and I don't even concern myself with the camera.
Right.
I concern myself with what's going on in that dressing room. And so
you're able to look right past it. Staying in Vegas, you were in Vegas the night Tupac was murdered?
Actually, yes. That was after Mike fight, and I was actually at Mike's house, sitting outside the house in the car waiting so we could leave. And they came rolling by. And before we could leave, the news that he had gotten shot came back to us. And that was a sad night. That was unbelievable.
Yeah. Even to this day, even though they've made the arrest, and we'll see.
Finally.
Well, yeah. Like it took longer than Tupac was alive, didn't it? To make the arrest, which is, beyond understandable for me, but, society we live in. And I know that, Tupac came to the ring with Mike during one of the fights. Were they close?
Yeah, they were pretty close. They used to spend time. And Tupac even went to visit him when he was in jail. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, definitely, obviously, rest in peace. Years later, moving forward with Lightspeed here with Anthony Pitts on the Parallax Effect Podcast. Chef Anthony opens a restaurant. What is that restaurant's name? Now, I know you said that might not be the direction you would like to go due to the, business side of things, but indulge me here.
If I had a restaurant, it would be the Private World of Anthony Pitts.
The Private World of Anthony Pitts, Don Champagne here on the Parallax Effect Podcast. You mentioned also you have, worked for maybe dignitaries or people or members from other countries. What are some of those countries that you've worked for?
African Prince. I escorted, I worked with some, I would say, chiefs' daughters from a prominent Nigerian family, Ivory Coast. Yeah, different people come in. People, they want people, but they don't want people to be like noticeable. So the thing about security and being prominent, if people don't know you, if you have these particular looking staunch security people, then they're gonna speculate who is that. Whereas they can't just go out and hang out in the club and have fun like they're just normal people. So I get the call.
So you get the phone call. Hey, Anthony, this is the Prince from, Country
X. Be, hey, Anthony, this is so-and-so, so-and-so. I got so-and-so, so-and-so's daughter and her friend in town. They want to go out tonight. Can you meet us? Can you work with us? And I'll be like, yay or nay. And if I say yay, then I tell them what it's going to cost them. And we move from there.
Wow. Do you have any proteges under you? Are you one of one? Are you training anybody?
At this point, no, I'm not training anybody because the people I trained or worked with or gave insight to have all moved on to something. Okay, Michael Duncan Clark. Remember him?
Yep.
He worked with me, and he used to always say, "Man, take me on the road with you, man. I said, Michael, you're trying to be an actor. You don't need to be on the road. Just be a supervisor. Stay here so you can go on your calls and you can do your auditions. And just in case, you don't want to be stuck out on the road. This is not what you want to do." So, right. And as you see, he went on to become
a very successful.
Yeah. And so,
rest
and then
in peace
the other
to him
people.
as well.
Funny, another one of the guys I work with, Big Ed, he's a chef down in Atlanta.
See, so it works. It can work, man.
Yeah. So Chef Ed.
Chef Ed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, my son, I trained my son. He's good. He still does it from time to time. He's down in Vegas. He'll work with the likes of Dennis Rodman, Judge Mathis, Dominique Wilkins. When they go, if they need somebody, they call me and be like, yo, I'll say, yo, man, so-and-so's coming to town. He wants you to be like, all right, cool. So,
and we're in.
Yeah.
So definitely passing the lineage along. That's a beautiful thing. That is for sure. As we continue my little list here, I got to put you on the spot for this one. Best point guard in the history of the NBA.
Best point guard? Earvin Johnson Jr.
Earvin Johnson.
And I'm not biased. It's just the way he played the position. And I mean, you had guys that were flashier, but the numbers don't lie. The numbers are the numbers.
Yeah.
If you look at his numbers and look at anybody else's number, you tell me who was the best point guard.
Right. No, I ask because they're starting, the case for Steph Curry is starting to emerge. And, I'm not making.
Look at the total record.
Yeah.
Look at the total record. The number of assists, the number of rebounds, the number of triple doubles, the number of this, that, and the third, as a point guard, not as a player, but as a point guard. Tell me somebody who has a better record than him.
I mean, you know, as far as all the stats you just mentioned, the only guy I can think of that you know comes close is LeBron.
He's not a point guard.
Yeah, right.
He's not a point guard.
Right.
You said point guard.
I did. I said point guard. You're right. I should stick to my question.
Yes. Come on. Don't mix apples and oranges.
Yeah.
We talking point guard.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you. Speaking of LeBron or MJ, this is the hottest sports take, so we got to get your opinion on it.
LeBron or MJ as to what?
As who's the better player. Regardless of position, just straight up throw him up. Who you got?
I'm taking Earvin Johnson Jr.
You're taking him.
You know why? Because he's a winner. He's going to win. He ain't going to take the fourth quarter off. He ain't going to take a break. He ain't going to do a lot of things that I see other people do, including Mr. James. And I respect him as a player and I respect him as a person. But if I had to take somebody, I'm going in the battle with Earvin Johnson Jr. as far as the best in the game for what he does.
Yeah, Earvin Johnson Jr., Magic Johnson definitely applied all of his vision, and he was a visionary player, right? That's how they described him. Be able to find you anywhere you were, anywhere you're at on the court,
and make you a better player.
And make you a better player, indeed. And it's done so in the business world as well.
He never say, I'm taking my talents over here with these other three big superstars so we can win the championship.
Well, I will say that he didn't have to do that because he played for the Lakers. I will say that.
Okay, but there were moments when he didn't. I mean, yeah, he had his main core, but they got the job done.
Yeah, well, him and Larry
back to back.
Yeah, well, him and Larry Bird basically either, depending on how you look at it, made basketball or saved basketball in the 80s, right? Both. Yeah. So definitely big shout out.
In my opinion, this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, I can't speak for nobody else. I can only speak for me.
And that's all we want here on the Parallax Effect Podcast. We are here with Anthony Pitts, Chef Anthony, Don Champagne, made it happen, came through, or let me come through and chill in his beautiful, comfortable home, get the exclusive interview, the one that I was looking for, the one that I needed. We do something on the show recently that I started. It's called the 3 points. Are you a soccer guy at all?
I like soccer.
So I came up with this because in, most of the leagues around the world, there's a point system that we don't quite use here in the States. You win a soccer match, you get 3 points. You lose, you get none. And if you draw, you get 1. So we like to think that we win on the show every time. So we get
3 points.
3 points. And I'm gonna kick it to you to give your 3 points on what you want the audience to take, either from this episode or any life advice you can give them in 3 points.
3 points. Point 1. Maintain your character, because you can't change that. How you are, who you are is who you are. You can lie, you can cheat, you can steal. If that's who you are, that's who you are. You can't change that. That's just your makeup. So be careful of the road you choose. Everybody's not going your way. That's point 2. And point 3, walk with faith. Don't ever waver from that. When you believe in something, you believe in it. If you don't, everybody got to have something to believe in. Me, I believe in God. Some people do, some people don't. So I just wish love to everybody.
Love to everybody, but much love to you, and much thanks to you, Anthony, for coming on our show today. Normally at this time, we kind of ask you how the folks could, get in touch with you and blah, blah, blah. But we're not going to do that because Anthony graced us with this one-time interview. So you will not be able to get in touch with him. You can get in touch with me if you need to relay a message to him. How's that?
If you know me, you know how to get in touch with me. Because I'm going to add something to this before we go real quick. I always have people tell me, so-and-so said they're your friends. Or says he's your friend. And I said, really? They're like, yeah. I said, ask him how many children I have. Ask him where I live. Ask him if he's been to my house. Ask him if we shared a supper. I eat with my friends. Hence, we had dinner the other night.
Yeah.
All of us.
Great dinner.
Y'all know me. You know where to find me. Only my friends know that. Acquaintances, I have a bunch of them. But friends, I have quite a few, but a few. In retrospect to all the people who claim to be my friend.
Yeah.
So.
And is that number like you can count them on two hands, or you need a couple more hands? How many true friends?
True friends? Probably two hands and one foot. Not excluding my family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm talking about friends. Because you can choose your friends, you can't choose your family.
Right. And you've chosen a great bunch, and the bunch of friends that you chose, I adopted as family and friends of my own. So, I just want to always let all of you know, all of the crew, all of the Kylans, the Erics, my brothers, and of course yourself, that, I've always looked up to you and respected all you guys, and
appreciate
tried to take a little piece of what you had to offer and turn it into my own
I'm
thing.
glad you listened.
Hey, I tried my hardest.
You did.
I tried my hardest, that's for sure. But yeah, appreciate everybody here for listening in to the Parallax Effect Podcast. You can follow up with us again on Instagram at Parallax Effects. On Instagram at Parallax Effect Media, on Facebook at the Parallax Effect Podcast, on Twitter on Parallax Effects. Once again, that's Parallax Effects with an S, and also on TikTok, search RiloKen27. On behalf of myself, on behalf of Don Champagne, Sir Chef Anthony Pitts came through, is in, and we're gonna close up this episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Parallax Effect, where every angle reveals a new depth of understanding. You've been watching the Parallax Effect Podcast, where every angle reveals a new depth of understanding.